Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from the desk of Most Valuable Promotions. Next stop, undisputed for Ellie Scotney.
Crawford.
Sporting a professional record of 11 wins with no losses, no draws, and no recorded knockouts, Ellie Scotney's resume is best described as quality over quantity. She doesn't have a whole lot of fights, but the fights that she does have are meaningful. All of them matter. Consider that in 11 professional fights, she's already taken on 3 reigning world champions. Unbeaten Sigolene Lefebvre for the WBO title. The longest reigning champion at the weight, Jamie Mercado, who reigned as champion for over 5 years, I believe. Shernika Johnson for the IBF. The same Shernika Johnson who's undisputed now at Bantam. Ellie Scotney beat her at Super Bantam. Can she beat Mayeli Flores, who has the last brass ring, the last belt to collect? Sporting a professional record of 13 wins with 1 loss, 1 draw, 4 knockouts, having never been knocked out in 15 professional bouts. She's got more fights than Ellie Scotney, more rounds, more pro experience, though perhaps not more talent, but a whole lot of gumption. And that was evident earlier this year in May when she fought then-champion Nazarena Romero for Nazarena's WBA title. Immediately after that fight, there was talk of a rematch, but that was many, many weeks ago, and we haven't heard anything about the rematch since then. Seeing MVP post this, Road to Undisputed, they ain't talking because they've got a mouth. I figure they're working on that fight. They're working on that fight as we speak, and I believe that Ellie Scotney will get her crack at the apple before this year is out. Ellie Scotney, in only 11 professional fights, has shown all the qualities of an elite-level boxer, but that's not to say that Mayeli Flores doesn't exhibit eliticism in her own way. Perhaps not the same as Ellie Scotney's X's and O's, but where Mayeli is an elite-level fighter, is she's got an elite-level engine, elite-level cardio. She can keep pressure on from the opening round to the final round. She's got an elite-level engine, elite-level durability. She can hold a shot and keep on coming. Elite-level power. She is one of the more heavy-handed punchers in the super bantamweight division, and this is what Ellie Scotney is going to have to deal with when the time comes. They must have paid Nazarena Romero to stand down, to step aside, because there was word of a rematch clause that she activated, but we've heard no new news about a rematch. This is more important, more relevant to the super bantamweight division. There's never been an undisputed super bantamweight champion in the women's super bantamweight division. Whoever wins will be the first, the inaugural undisputed champion. This will be a test of Ellie Scotney's fitness as well as her ring savvy. She's not that heavy-handed a puncher, Ellie Scotney. She certainly isn't a knockout merchant with no recorded knockouts. So how can she mean to keep Mayeli Flores off? Well, she is a bit taller than Mayeli and a little bit longer, lighter on her feet. The fight that she just had with Jamie Mercado services as a rehearsal for this fight because Mayeli's going to do pretty much the same thing. Bear down on Ellie Scotney, try to crowd her mid-range to inside, same as Jamie just did. Just tried to, I should say. Crash the pocket, throw punches in bunches. Not the most subtle plan, but that's what Mayeli is gonna do. The difference? I think Mayeli is a bit more relentless. Harder to discourage, harder to deter, more willing to take one to give one. The pace Mayeli sets for a fight Ellie is going to have to keep up with that, keep the counters coming, and keep on her toes moving around. She can't stand in one spot. The moment she does, Mayeli is going to be all over her. Based on what we've seen, you can give Ellie Scotney the edge to win this fight and win this fight on points because she's not a knockout merchant. She's fought 3 of the 4 champions at this weight already. Mayeli is the last one. She will perhaps be the hardest, but I like Ellie to win. Elsewhere in the world of boxing, earlier today, the prelim card for Canelo versus Crawford was announced. About 6 or 7 fights for the prelim card, not the main. And already, the usual suspects, the Boo Birds, are poo-pooing all over the card, even though it doesn't cost them anything extra. Kid who goes by the name Danny. Dan, the boxing man, big PBC guy, big Heymanite, loves all things Al Heyman. Another one of those West Coast Jono Sabos having an identity crisis. Kind of guy wears a keffiyeh. Spends a lot of time online brown-nosing Al Heyman so he can get invited to the proverbial cookout. Apparently, he doesn't like this prelim card, but I guess he was satisfied with the undercard for Pacquiao versus Barrios. Do you remember what was on that thing? Brandon Figueroa versus Joet Gonzalez. Mixayo versus Mata. Picasso versus Kamita. And this ain't even the worst PBC undercard I've seen. There were others. They were worse. And you're talking about undercards to where you gotta pay $80 to see them. I mean, that's the difference. That even if you don't like the undercard they've put together for Canelo versus Crawford, it's not like it's costing you anything extra, so why would you complain? So on YouTube, for God's sakes. Sergey Boachuk versus Brandon Adams 2 is a fine fight. Jermaine Franklin versus Ivan Ditchko, that's a good one. Doesn't really matter to these guys. Anything that's not PBC, anything that's not being put together by Al Heyman, they will put under a level of scrutiny that they don't put Heyman's cards under. Well, this Jono Sabo gushes over a shout-out that Rolly Romero gave him on his social media. That's the whole point. If it's not PBC, this guy don't like it, and there are others just like him, this vocal minority that only exists online who don't buy those pay-per-views either. Do you expect me to believe that you fork over $80 at a time, several times a year, every time the PBC puts on a pay-per-view? Yeah, right. Even you don't support that crap. You just pretend to online, for the metrics, for the clicks. But even you don't buy that crap. The boxing schedule from August through September has been paper thin. Top Rank's not doing anything, PBC's not doing anything either. This guy should be grateful that Turkey's putting together not just one big night of boxing, but 3 days. 3 consecutively. Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. You're gonna get a lot of boxing that you're not getting in the month of August, that you're not getting in the month of September. But I've long maintained that Heymanites are not actually boxing fans. They're a cross between love and hip-hop fans and people who have a mild interest in boxing. I've been saying it for years. I don't think everybody understood it at first, but now they do. These guys are crabs in a bucket. They are not boxing fans. They would rather see the entire establishment collapse because Al Heyman is not in control, because Al is not everything they made him out to be. Turkey Al-Sheikh is everything they pretended Al was. And they really don't like that. No matter how affordable he's made his pay-per-views or what big names he uses on them, when he makes a card like Crawford versus Canelo, not a pay-per-view at all, that's not good enough. Nothing ever will be. Because he's not Al Heyman. And that's their real problem.
So why has your man not fought anybody durable? Do you consider Dillian White to be durable?
Give me a durable tech.
Give us Torres. Give us fucking Fabio Wardley. Give us Michael Hunter. We're not afraid. The one's afraid is fucking Warren. He's the one that didn't give us Bacoli. He's the one that swerved Itauma away from Bacoli. The American heavyweight stepped up to Bacoli. The American heavyweight still to this day has a better resume. It's all smoke and mirrors with Itauma.
Where are they? What's Torres doing?
What do you mean what's Torres? Torres got a better win. Torres beat fucking Guido, my dude. Dillian White's been sitting on the park bench playing chess for the last 6 years. You think that shit is valid? Guido Villanella is a better fucking heavyweight today, right now, and in the rankings than Dillian White.
Sometimes I agree with things Nesta Gibbs says, and sometimes I don't. This is one of the times I don't. I feel like that is an exceptionally bad boxing take to the point where it's hypocritical, given who it's coming from. What is Nestor expecting of Moses Itauma, who's 20 years old at 13-0? Oh, you want he should have fought Godzilla already. Oddly enough, you didn't expect that of Wilder, who spent 7 years kicking cans down the road. And he, unlike Moses Itauma, was a bronze medalist. He was an Olympian. Did everybody all of a sudden forget that Nestor Gibbs was one of the biggest Deontay Wilder fans in the entire YTBC? So tell me, Nestor, who was Deontay fighting at 12-0 and 13-0? Nobody as good as Dillian White. For as bad as you might think Dillian is today, Wilder's competition at 12-0 and 13-0 was still worse. And you still supported him. You were still okay with it. So why do you got all these standards for the foreigners that you don't have for the Americans? Speaking of Americans, you brought up Jared Anderson. His fight with Martin Bakole. He was 24 years old with 17 professional bouts at the time that he fights Martin Bakole. Older than Moses is now, with more fights than Moses has now. But let's look at who he was fighting when he was 12-0 and 13-0. Was it somebody as proven as a Dillian White? Somebody as seasoned? For God's sake, he was fighting Jerry Flores. And you were perfectly okay with that offering. Rules for thee, but not for me. That's how it always is with the Americans, who sat there and watched Wilder kick cans down the road for over 30 fights over the course of 7 years and aggrandized him anyway. They didn't put him under pressure like Nestor is now putting Moses under pressure, who is even younger than Wilder was when he debuted as a pro. Oh no, the American fighter gets to take their time, get coddled and pampered and fight in developmental fights. I mean, look at Boots. That guy's up to 34 fights. Who the hell was he fighting at 12-0? Who was Devin Haney fighting at 12-0? Or Ryan, Javante, who were they fighting? Were you banging your fist on your desk for them to fight somebody durable in that very early stage in their careers? You know the answer. We all do. So don't get all highfalutin when it comes to the foreign fighter. I got high hopes for Moses Itauma. I actually want him to take his time, to work his way up gradually, because after Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua and Dillian White and Usyk and everybody else, when they call it a career, and that's not far away, there are going to be big shoes left to fill. This kid's got what it takes to carry the mantle, but I don't want him to trip over a pebble trying to meet these insane demands. You know, they rushed Daniel Dubois into that Joe Joyce fight. That didn't have to happen. I don't expect Frank and George to make that same mistake again. They've got a winner in this kid. And yeah, he might be ready for some of the upper echelon guys, but when you have time, when you have the luxury of time, you might as well use it. So take your time, Moses. While the Americans get ready to prop up the next souped-up hype job who's the best thing since sliced bread for no other reason than he lives close to their house. Well, he's from my city. He's from my state. As if the rest of the free world gives a damn.
And can nobody say it's clout chasing on my part, because I've been mentioning Anthony Joshua. I mentioned Anthony Joshua. Go look at my post-fight press conference, Kovalev 2. Verge mentioned. They said, what's next? He mentioned Anthony Joshua. And at that time, we hadn't talked about it. I looked at him like, come on, man. Like, we ain't talking about that yet. And then even after retirement, people said, man, what would you have done if you wouldn't have retired? And I said, look, man, there wasn't no talks being had, but my plan was Tony Bellew, get used to the cruiserweight division. Got a lot of respect for him, too. And I was going to AJ. At least I was going to try to make that fight. That was my plan before I retired. So this ain't no, like, I know he was like, bro, why you name dropping me? But that didn't come out of left field. We've been kind of talking about that.
Well, just because you talked about it a couple of years ago doesn't mean it's not clout chasing. And just because you decided to bring it back up now, that doesn't change that it's clout chasing because, well, you didn't actually do it then. And nobody knows if you're serious about doing it now. Well, what really is clout chasing in boxing? It's attaching your name to someone else so that you can siphon off press from their notoriety, from their fame. Except you don't actually plan on fighting them. And that's what makes it clout chasing. Now, you can tell Roy all day about what plans you had in 2017 and what you think you can do now, but unless it actually comes into fruition, it's just plain old clout chasing. You must have another book on Kindle you're trying to sell. You must be trying to muster up metrics on your YouTube channel by bringing this back up, because here and now, you're 41 years old, you haven't boxed in 7 years. In your heyday, in your prime, you weren't a big puncher then. You're not going to be one now all of a sudden at heavyweight, where you've done Bo Diddley. There are more realistic goals. even for a fighter in Andre Ward's position, who's been out as long as he has. I mean, you could come back at light heavyweight, see about fighting Artur, or see about fighting Dimitri. You could go to cruiser. You mentioned going to cruiser for Tony Bellew, so go there for Jai Opetaia. Why not him? Why not them? Why Anthony? Why Anthony specifically? He's not gonna say it, but I will. It's because Anthony is the money. Andre can't get money fighting those guys? Well, he actually could, if he were serious about mounting a comeback and serious about adding to his legacy. I'd go as far as saying that Turkey might finance one or some of those fights for Andre. But he doesn't want to fight those guys, and being honest with you, I don't think he wants to fight Anthony Joshua either. I think deep down inside, Andre Ward has always harbored a resentment towards popular fighters, and we got a glimpse of that years ago with Gennady, when Gennady started to get popular. Then it was Canelo. All of a sudden, he had an axe to grind with Canelo. I always felt it was because Canelo made more history in the super middleweight division, where Andre Ward spent a lot of time. I always felt it was because Canelo made more history in Andre's old stomping grounds than Andre did. Do you see a lot of people sitting around talking about Mikhail Kessler? Or the biggest win of his career, arguably, the win over Farrell Crotch. How often does that really get brought up in a boxing conversation? And listen, look, I don't think that 5 or 10 years from now, people are going to be talking about Canelo versus Saunders or Canelo versus Smith. But what they are going to talk about is who the last undisputed champion was. And who the undisputed champions were. In that department, Canelo's got you beat. That's an earmark is what that is. That's a timestamp that isn't easy to erase. Canelo is part of a very exclusive club that you're not a part of. And that's why I think he started to resent Canelo. I think he's always resented Anthony. The love and the adulation that he got in the United Kingdom. Andre never really got that in the United States, even though he was the last male Olympic gold medalist in boxing America produced. Andre likely feels like he's always been in someone else's shadow. Anthony won a gold medal. Yeah. Like Andre won a gold medal, but the reception really was night and day. Yeah. Anthony Joshua was already a star coming out of the amateurs, into the paid ranks, into the pros. It didn't take long for him to have his own box office fights, his own pay-per-views. All the popularity Ward didn't have. I think Andre only made 2 pay-per-view appearances, and both times the numbers were abysmal for the 2 Sergey Kovalev fights. I think he resents popular fighters, and what is Anthony Joshua if not popular? A great ambassador for the sport and a great sportsman. He's got his flaws as a boxer. Most boxers do. He's not perfect, but he is popular. I consider him a hero. Yes. He actually got me watching British boxing. Anthony Joshua, for me as an American, was the gateway to a lot of other great British fighters, a lot of other great British fights. I think he's done a great service, not just for British boxing, but boxing as a whole. Some of the biggest events the last 7 years have involved Anthony. And I think that Andre resents him for that, because Anthony's not perfect. He's not unbeaten, but he's more popular than you ever were. And I think that really sticks up Andre's crawl to the point where he pretends he wants to fight him.